Act, passed in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, was meant to ensure that banks deemed too big to fail could never again threaten to bring down the entire financial system with them. Yet, while the bill introduced new regulatory requirements and created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Dodd-Frank did little to take on the power of the banks. In the late 1990s, a bipartisan deregulatory impulse had led to the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which had separated commercial and investment banking, and to rapid expansion of the biggest banks. But even after the 2008 crisis, policymakers never seriously reconsidered reinstating the division between commercial and investment banks. The idea of using antitrust policy to break up the banks was never on the table. Or consider policies to address climate change, a core plank of Obama's 2008 campaign. The administration originally supported the Waxman-Markey bill, a 2009 cap-and-trade bill that would have limited greenhouse gas emissions for the first time. But the proposal died in the Senate. Obama then turned to regulation as a next best option. New fuel economy standards and a plan to reduce power plant emissions tried to use the authority of the Clean Air Act to address climate change, with very modest success. Both the cap-and-trade and regulatory approaches built on an economic framework that sought to use market forces in the former case, or cost-benefit calculations in the latter, to achieve efficient policy results. The strategy of simply instructing government to determine safe levels of emissions and requiring firms to meet them, as Democrats might have proposed in the 1970s, was not even discussed. Obama was, of course, faced with many constraints that shaped both the options he considered and what he could actually accomplish. Republicans in Congress, more conservative members of his own party, the particular scrutiny he received as a black man in the White House, and, notably, the worst recession in 70 years. The limits on what he was able to realize as president are not solely explained by a failure of imagination. But what is so striking about Obama's time in Washington is not that he sought to achieve fundamental change and failed. It is how constricted the very horizons of possibility seem to be. Moments of crisis, like 2008, can be moments of political transformation. As Rahm Emanuel, Obama's chief of staff, suggested that year, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste." So why, then, did the Obama administration not produce, or even seek, more fundamental change, despite coming to power during just such a crisis and having, for 2 full years, control of both the House and the Senate? Why did it remain committed to an incrementalist, modestly ambitious vision of government, even as the country faced unprecedented challenges? And should we expect the same from the Biden administration, which inherited much of Obama's legacy, and many of his advisors, and came to power during a global pandemic, but also at a time of greater mobilization on the political left? There is no single right answer to this question. The Democratic Party's enduring commitment to a market-friendly, technocratic approach to policy since 1990 has many sources, including the influence of the tech and finance industries within the National Democratic Party, the ever-rightward shift of Republicans, the relative weakness of organized movements on the left, and the depth and complexity of interest group politics in domains like healthcare and climate policy. Any one of these makes transformative change hard. Combined, they can make it feel impossible. This book addresses a critical yet underappreciated historical change that helps explain Democrats' apparent lack of ambition, among other political shifts, the rise of a distinctive way of thinking about policy, what I call the economic style of reasoning, that has become prevalent in Washington. The economic style of reasoning is a loose approach to policy problems that is grounded in the academic discipline of economics, but has traveled well beyond it. It is often perceived as politically neutral, but it nevertheless contains values of its own.